Hello, my name is Duff and I'm the Engagement and Participation Lead for Scottish Attachment Action.
Hi, I'm Judy Furnivall and I'm currently Chair of Scottish Attachment in Action. Hi Dylan.
Hello.
I guess it's really interesting to look back over the last few years and think about what's happened. Before you actually joined us, Scottish Attachment Action was really quite involved in the independent care review, which I think shows that even though I think we've had to learn quite a lot through the process, we were really committed to the values that underpin the promise. So myself, Edwina, who was then the chair, and Moira, who's our treasurer, we were all involved in some of those key groups. So I was involved in the Love group, Edwina was involved in the workforce group, and Moira was involved in the stigma group. And you were involved in one of those groups before you came to us too, is that right?
Yeah, it was the Components of Care group.
Okay. So in many ways, the voice of Scottish Attachment in Action is there in the promise. A lot of the ideas about how important it is to ensure that the workforce is properly trained, that they really understand the importance of the impact of trauma, the importance of relationships, those kinds of aspects we were very strongly talking about. I've been talking about love for years, so I was delighted that the promise really emphasised the importance of love in children's lives throughout their care experience. And again, we know that we were influential in that, and we're very, very proud of that. However, we also recognise as a result of the promise that there were things we weren't doing. And it's made us really look at and review some of what we've been doing. And I think you probably know quite a lot about what's happened.
Yeah, since I've been in post, certainly, one thing that is very clear to me is that everyone in SAIA, from trustees to the development team, is very committed to the promise. And it's very nice actually to come into a place and see that commitment and everyone cheering each other on and wanting to get it right for young people, wanting to get it right for everyone that we seek to serve across Scotland and actually global. Yeah. And I know that you mentioned we've had to learn, and in the last couple of months we've been looking at what we can do better. How we do things, where we do things, and who we do things with. And we're really keen to get more young people working with us. And a way we did this was through our education project work, where we really looked at how we can learn from people's experience. So we spoke to young people, we spoke to teachers, we spoke to a range of different professionals in relation to that. And we really looked to understand how attachment can link into people's positive and negative experiences in school, and how we can influence teacher training so they get to understand what attachment is, what trauma is, and how they can do little things that make a massive difference in care experience in people's lives. So if people don't turn up to school and forget their homework, it's not because they're bad or don't want to do their homework, it's because they just moved to next forward, and there's a whole reason I need to understand the picture behind that. I think obviously the education project has just released a report which goes into details of that, and I think it's really welcome.
And I guess one of the things that's really good about that is the voice of care experience people did come through that.
Absolutely.
It came through because of the people we directly interviewed who were care experienced, but also there was a lovely passion amongst many of the people we talked to make lives better, particularly care experienced children were often mentioned because of the very real difficulties, like you say, that face children. And it's not about them not being able to learn, it's about not being given the right environment in which to learn and not the right support to deal with some of that. So that was a very powerful experience. And yet, as you said, we're still in process of making sure that is much more widely known about by young people as well, but also that we are going to do what we can to help change the system, which is quite a big deal from quite a small organisation, but we want to do that. Okay. I'm just aware of another of the things that's happened really recently, which again we're very proud of, is our involvement with another couple of other organisations, which is something we're calling the Village. We know that a lot of care experienced parents are trying their very, very best to bring up their children without the kind of support that most people take for granted, families. And so we're trying to create something that is a bit like that. It's easy to get, because again, I think the other thing that we know and we hear really powerfully is how scrutinised and in some ways stigmatised care experienced parents are.
Yeah.
It's much more difficult to be able to ask for help if you're care experienced than it is if you're not, which is really awful because you'd expect it to be the other way around. So we've developed this, we're developing something that actually we hope will provide an easy, stigma-free access for people to get understanding, resources, support. And this is where we've really learned, is half our steering group are care experienced parents, which is a very different situation from the way we've done before. I think it's really powerful that that's the case. We really need to hear what the actual experience is like for young people or older people, because it's not just people who just left care who become pregnant, but maybe much later on. And I think that's another of the things that we need to acknowledge. Care experience goes throughout your life. And in a funny kind of a way, although we haven't really had a lot of focus on this yet, another of the things we're really interested in is understanding the experience of attachment across the lifespan. What does it mean if you've had difficult experiences in attachment in your childhood, when you get to old age and you're looking back at your life? Those kinds of questions. So we've got a lot going on. And to, again, recognising that care experience is a lifelong experience, not just something that's up to your 25th birthday.
Absolutely. And I think that we're really keen on working with organisations because, as you said, Judy, you know, imagine someone was in a care home later on in their life, but actually early on in their life, they're in a children's house. And the state intervention at that point is massive. Yeah. And the experience that brings. Yeah.
I do have nightmares about what it must be like to have flashbacks to being in a children's home and not understand what's happening to you. So, yeah.
We're really keen actually, and something I'm trying to kind of campaign about, and within Scottish Art in Action is about getting more young people involved. So people can visit the website, which they'll view this on today, but actually, we've got the email, admin@saia.org.uk, where that would reach any of us to get involved in our work. We've got our social media handles on Twitter and Facebook, etc., where they can send a message if they'd like to be involved. You know, if they think the education project, actually I want to learn more about that, or I want to learn more about the village and how can I be involved in that. And that's places they can come to and get involved with us.
And also, if there's anything they think we aren't involved in that they'd like us to be involved in, we want to be, we really, as you said, we really want to be involved in keeping promise. And that promise is actually a promise from Scotland to our children, and they're our children. And I think we want to be, at Scottish Art in Action, taking our parental responsibilities seriously.
Absolutely.